Hi, this is Rachel Stone with CCT in Richmond, Virginia, and I'll demonstrate some data selection and data entry tips in Excel 2013. I'll first talk about data selection, and selecting data or selecting cells in your workbook. You would use your mouse with this white plus. I'm just going to click and drag to select groups of cells, and I can drag left, down, right, any direction, and I'll continue selecting those cells. You can also use your keyboard to select cells. I'll start with the first one selected and hold down the Shift key as I use the arrow keys on my keyboard. So I tap the down arrow, the right arrow, the up arrow, the left arrow. Any direction I press, it will continue selecting those cells until I release the Shift key, and that's the group that I have selected. Now let's say you want to select cells that are not contiguous or that are not touching one another. So I want to select 3 separate individual people's records from this list. I'll start by selecting my first one and then hold the Control key on my keyboard as I continue selecting additional cells. Now just as a quick tip, let's say I need to copy these 3 records. I'll hit the copy button, let's click over here to the side, and paste, and notice I got just those 3 records that I copied. Now press delete. A few other tips for selecting data. Let's say I want to select all of my last names in this column. There's a couple of ways to do that. I could click on the last name header and then scroll down my page and hold Shift as I select the last one, and that selects my whole range of cells. So again, I click and then I hold Shift and click in the last group of cells and in the last cell, and that selects the whole range. Another way I could do this is to use my arrow key on my keyboard along with Control Shift. So let's say if I want to select all the last names, I'll do Control Shift down arrow and see it selects all of the names in my data list. Or if I want to select Angela Berry's record, I'll do Control Shift right arrow and select all of the cells to the right that contain data. And notice using these tools, it stops when it gets to an empty cell, so it doesn't select all of the empty row data all the way to the last column. That's what would happen if I hit the row number. It would select off to the right. So just to get the text, it's Control Shift and then the arrow direction you want to go. So Control Shift right to select the row, or I can do Control Shift down to select down. Another keyboard shortcut to select my whole data range is I just want to make sure I have a cell selected within this range, and I can do Control Shift and the number 8, and that selects my whole data range as well. So let's talk about some data entry tips, and I'll start by adding some new records here at the bottom of my list. Now let's say I need to add 3 more people happen to have the same name as this one, Krista Hurley. Now I can duplicate the data in the cell above by pressing Control D. And I'll press Tab, I'll do Control D again, see how it duplicates the data from the cell above. Now if I want to duplicate data from a row of cells, I'll just drag select across that row, press Control D, and you'll see it's duplicated that data. Another way I can enter data into more than one cell at a time is using Control Enter. What I'll do is I'll select these 3 cells and I'll type the name Smith and hold Control as I press Enter, and notice that populates all of the cells that I had selected. Another nice tip is there's this autocomplete feature that's built into Excel. So if I start typing a word that's already contained in the column, let's say in this column I want to put in the word sales. As soon as I start typing the S, notice that it's auto-completed the rest of the word for me. All I need to do is press Enter, and it accepts that. An alternate to using autocomplete is the keyboard shortcut Alt down arrow. And that displays for me a list with one of each entry. And then with that, I can just click on the one that I want to use. So let me scroll down a little bit here. And I'll show you that again. It's Alt down arrow. And I can use the arrow keys on my keyboard to select an option, or I'll do this again, I can use my mouse to select an option. And another nice keyboard shortcut I wanted to show you was putting in today's date. And the shortcut for today's date is Control semicolon. Okay. So those are just a few data selection and data entry tips. Again, this is Rachel Stone at CCT, and thanks for watching.